What is flow? Have you ever been in a state of flow? Some of you might be going, oh yes. Some of you might be going, what? Flow? What's that? Is that like a river? And others might be going, I kind of know what it is, but not well enough to identify if I have been in a state or not. Well, this video is for you. In this video, I'll be unpacking the idea of flow so that you can identify when, if ever, you have been in a state of flow and how to encourage the state more in your life. Now, flow is a state that was coined by a psychologist and a professor at Claremont University, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I hope I pronounced that right. It's very, very tricky. He described flow as a state of intense absorption and optimal experience that results from intrinsically motivating challenges. Let's take this apart a little bit. First, being a state of flow has a feeling of being absorbed in the moment that is characterized with a flavor of pure enjoyment. Second, this state is achieved when you're engaged in something that is intrinsically or internally motivated. Now, we discussed the idea of internal motivation in the earlier video, and it's when the motivation comes from within and not from external demand, obligation, or reward. And lastly, the activity that you're engaged in is challenging. Now, on the last point, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi went to say, contrary to what we usually believe, the best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. Optimal experience is thus something we make happen. This means that as humans, we thrive on engaging in tasks that challenge and stretch us, and this is an important component of flow. Now, at this point, I want to share with you a clip of what someone in the state of flow looks like. Now, this is pretty amazing, isn't it? This shows someone who is absorbed in the moment, engaged in something intrinsically motivated, and doing something extremely challenging. Now, let me share with you more about elements of flow. First, there is a balance between challenge and skills. This means that the difficulty of the task that you're engaged in provides the right degree of challenge to your ability. Playing a piece of music that's too difficult will leave a musician frustrated and disappointed, and playing one that's too easy leads one to boredom and routine. So flow occurs in the range between too much and too little. Second, you're concentrating fully on what you're doing in the moment. The experience is poised between conscious but not effortful concentration and being on automatic. So usually people in flow are so involved in what they're doing that there is no psychological energy left over to process any information that's not relevant to the task at hand. And third, the activity has clear goals and provides immediate feedback. So to get in a state of flow, an activity needs to have clear goals and rules about how to achieve these goals. So for example, a tennis player knows exactly what's required in order to win a game. The rules are clear. Now, because the goals are clear, feedback on success or failure can be immediately received, which informs what move to make next. And fourth, there is a sense of control. Now, characteristic for flow is the feeling of heightened control over one's actions. It is a state of security and relaxation with a complete absence of worry. And 5, self-consciousness disappears. Being completely involved creates a state in which there is no room for worry or fear, distraction, or self-conscious rumination. They just drop effortlessly out of awareness. you do not feel separated from your actions. You're one with your performance. So this feeling of unity can expand to a person's surroundings like nature, as well as to a whole group of people working together, which is called team flow. And you get a sense that you are part of a greater presence. And 6, the sense of time is altered. Meaning they're speeding up and slowing down. So, one of the features of being in flow is that time no longer seems to pass in an ordinary way. Time can either feel condensed, like 2 hours feeling like 10 minutes, or expanded, seconds feeling like minutes. And 7, the task is intrinsically rewarding. This is something that I explained earlier. And 8, effortlessness and ease. Flow involves flexibility and ease. Everything works harmoniously and effortlessly. So, a tennis match or a solo performance on stage may look strenuous from the outside, but if in fact the player is in flow, they do not experience any particular strain. The activity runs smoothly, guided by an inner logic. Now, given these elements of flow, when have you found yourself in this state? Take a moment to reflect on your life. So for me, when I was in high school, I remember getting in a state of flow when I practiced and performed flute in front of an audience. I especially remember the feeling of a sense of time being altered, as I would often practice the flute all day and not realize the passing of time. So, how do we create more moments of flow in our daily lives? To do this, it helps to figure out how we are engaged in different tasks in our daily lives. So, this diagram will help you to do that. In this diagram, the y-axis is the challenge level of the activity you're engaged in from low to high, and the x-axis is your perceived skill level from low to high. Notice that this is a perceived skill level, so it's about how you see yourself and your skill level to be rather than your actual skill level. Based on the different places on the scale, you can see the 8 stages of engagement. So in the following activity, you'll have a chance to identify activities that fit in various stages of engagement. So for example, when I play flute in the community orchestra, the challenge level of the selection of music is quite low for my perceived skills, so I find myself quite bored. On the other hand, when I teach a theory of knowledge course, which is a new course that I'm teaching this year, I find myself between worry and anxiety as my perceived skill level is low compared to the level of challenge that I'm facing. So, as you do this activity, be sure to consider activities that get you in a social flow as well. Flow is often characterized as a solo experience, but it can actually be highly social. If you ever have been part of a sports team, like a soccer team or basketball team, and played together, or an orchestra and performed together, you may have experienced social flow. It's a heightened, joyous experience, as the experience of flow is contagious and we feed off each other. So, in the activity that you're about to do, you will also have a chance to consider how to move your activities to the flow state. Sometimes this requires you to up your challenge level. Other times this requires that you up your skills. Oftentimes the latter is accompanied with deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is dedicated effort to improve performance in a specific domain. So this is like practicing your piano every single day. Purposeful, focused, and often painful. This painful part is not so much a physical pain, but in a mental commitment that is required to keep repeating and practice and keep stretching yourself. And it requires repetition and constant critical feedback so that you know how to move forward. It requires intentional focus on areas of weakness and constant development of areas of strength. And not simply going through the motions, it has one objective to improve performance. So, as you're considering ways to skill up to increase the chance of you experiencing flow, be sure to take these ideas into consideration to design and execute your practice. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have fun exploring your areas of flow.